Chris. I am back, and I'm with a very good old friend of mine, Mecca Ibrahim, and I'm going to let her describe what she does before we get into an interview, because she can do it better than me. So, hey, Max, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. You want to describe what it is you do?
Well, what do I do? I suppose I bring people together in the form of community. I'm not going to say I'm a storyteller, because everyone's a storyteller these days.
Yeah.
But I bring together people who do have stories to tell, I would say. So technically, I'm a marketing manager and a social media manager. And
Social media guru, yeah? No?
I'm not a social media guru. I absolutely hate the word guru, because
okay.
it's I'm not sitting around on some sort of like higher plane
Really?
pontificating about social media. I'd like to maybe one day,
Maybe
but for now I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. So I'm a,
You're very real.
yeah, I'm a social media, let's say, expert, if you want to use that sort of word. But in reality, I'm now a social media consultant and a marketing manager.
Okay.
And up to a month ago, I was head of social media and marketing for Great British Chefs, and I began that role in July 2011. And
which is one of the ways we've worked together over the years. I did a good bit of work for Great British Chefs here and there.
You did.
Yeah, and other projects we've worked on before. Yeah.
So
here we're going to be talking about specifically women in the food industry.
Absolutely.
Which I guess would apply to you as well, because you've worked a lot with Great British Chefs is obviously food driven. A lot of the things you worked on have been food related.
Absolutely, yes. So, obviously everything I've done since 2011 as a career has been food related, and it's been about marketing and social media around brands and around the public in general. And I've just seen, I suppose, a huge increase in people's interest in food, whether that's from a perspective of making recipes, to creating their own recipes, to buying food and learning more about where that food comes from. So I think over the last few years, I've definitely seen an increase in provenance, or an interest in people seeing where their food comes from, and that's really the biggest change I would say I've seen in the food industry since I've worked in it, professionally since 2011. But prior to that, I actually was involved in food, as you well know, through a blogging competition called Nom Nom Nom, which we started in 2008, I believe.
Sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, so quite some time ago now. I don't know how many years that is. Yeah. It's a lot of years, isn't it?
And I've heard it might be coming back.
Nom 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 is coming back. Okay. Yes, Nom 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 will be coming back. So Nom Nom Nom, for those who don't know it, was, and let's say will become, a blogging food bloggers competition. What I found when I've been blogging myself since. I say since I started blogging in 2003, and blogged for about 10 years, and then stopped. But while I was doing that blogging, I was blogging about the London Underground and all of the sort of social niceties you get of travelling with 2 million people every day. I saw a lot of food bloggers and was friends with a lot of food bloggers like yourself, and I wondered, because most of them at the time weren't necessarily cooks. They were actually doing food reviews and writing about their views at restaurants and things, and I thought, I wonder if these guys can actually cook themselves.
Right, yeah.
So we started a bloggers version of MasterChef, really, and we got food bloggers paired up together. They cooked in the amazing cookery school on Little Portland Street, and they had a couple of hours like they would on MasterChef to make some dishes. They would go off to a market to buy the ingredients. They'd be able to bring a few from home, but in the main, they were making the dishes from scratch in the kitchen and then presenting them to a panel of judges. We had some amazing judges back in the day. We've had people like Francesco Mazze, Anna Hansen, Martin Morales, Tom Hunt, Tom Aitkins, Bill Knott, all of these guys, like right back in the day when blogging was, not really thought about in the same way that it is now, who were just really, really into helping bloggers and being curious about them. So there was also an element that, as well as there being a real physical tasting, people then had to write their blog posts up, publish them online, and get their blogging, not their blogging community, but get the people that visited their blogs to vote for them. So there was a people's choice as well as a real tasting, and in that whole event, which we ran for 5 years, we ended up raising over £6,500 for Action Against Hunger. So we're keen to I've been on Facebook, and I look back one Facebook post to all the people that had taken part in Nom Nom Nom, and I looked at what they were doing now, and they're all doing now some really amazing things.
Some of them doing really incredible careers.
They've got amazing careers now. I mean, they've gone on to all sorts of things. The ones that are in food have usually probably all written a book by now. Some of them are working for BBC Good Food. Some of them are
heads of major advertising firms. Absolutely. Some of them have gone on to be very, very senior in BuzzFeed. So some of these people are doing some, incredible things now, yet we all still hark back to that time when food blogging was very, very different to what it is now. And we just through putting out a post on Facebook, there seemed to be an interest to doing it again. Oh, great.
So we'll probably do it again.
Okay, sometime in 2019.
Sometime in 2019, yeah, okay. Definitely,
cool.
Definitely, yeah. But Nom Nom Nom, as going back to women in the food industry, is also going to be a food events platform, and speaking with the lady Rosalind, who runs the cookery school. That's very much what I want to do with Nom Nom Nom.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. So Rosalind Rathouse, that's one of the people that's going to be participating in some of the things you have coming up for the women in the food industry. So do you want to talk a bit about that? Tell me more about women in the food industry. What you have cooking up for it.
Okay, what have I got cooking up for women in the food industry? It's a very good pun. I like puns. I like buns as well, but I like puns and buns. Puns and buns. Anyway, women in the food industry. That came about amazingly over a kind of a dinner conversation, kind of conversations I've had with other people as well. I must say that I've had some conversations with the lovely Sudi Piggott, who's Sudi Foodie, who runs Women in Food. But what I wanted to do, and me and my friend Janie Ash, who runs Better with Jam, wanted to do with women in the food industry, was go beyond chefs and go and look at women who are in the entire food industry. So that means producers, that means people in the drinks industry, that means farmers, that means cheesemakers, that means PR people, that means food photographers, that means, a whole heap of women who are in the food industry but are not necessarily just chefs or are not chefs. So that's very much how I see women in the food industry. There's a lot of us, a huge amount of us, and I'd been aware, I suppose, of this whole sea change, I suppose, in feminism becoming, for want of a better word, much more, this is going to sound really terrible, but more mainstream. I suppose back in the day, back in the 60s, feminism was like about burning your bra and going on marches and doing sorts of like really wild and wacky things, and it was about, you know, empowering and being a sister and all of that sort of stuff. And feminism now kind of is sort of those things, but it's much less necessarily militant or much less going out on marches. But that doesn't mean to say that people who are feminists can't go out on marches and be, you know, and be militant. But I think there's definitely an awareness that in this industry in particular, particularly if you look at professional, in the chefing world, going back to that chefing world, is that of all of the, you know, the great chefs that there are in the UK, only, you know, professional chefs, only 18% of them are women, which is just ridiculous. You know, we've got like more 50%. Well, was it 52% of the population are we as women? I don't know what the figures are. It's a little bit more than half, but less than 20% of those professional chefs are female, and that bothers, I think, quite a lot of us in the industry, and we're not quite sure why that is. There's various reasons that have been posited as to why that is, in that the kitchen is like very fast paced and very pressurized and very stressful. There's plenty of other jobs where there's stress and fast pacedness and pressure. And women can thrive in those situations. So there's something else going on that's not necessarily just a case of it being pressurized. So, you know, and obviously there's come a point where, say a month and a bit ago, we had our own kind of like Me Too moment where this the chef that everyone respected and knows really well, you know, did something that was inappropriate, and, you know, put his hand up and said that. But there was a lot of discussion around that, and saying that it was now kind of time for women to sort of like say, enough of this, really. You know, it's not right. But I think what we wanted to do from a sort of a women's perspective is not necessarily harp on all the bad things and why we are underrepresented and why we are so like persecuted and why our lives are not as great as they could be, and look at all the things that are great about what we're doing. Because we are doing some amazingly great and some amazingly good things and some amazingly nurturing things and some things with education and some things which are like looking at provenance and being more concerned with provenance and being more concerned with the environment. There's women that are like really, really trailblazing in those areas.
Well, who would be a good example?
Well, Chantal Nicholson, for example,
okay.
she's an amazing chef. Where
does she cook?
She cooks at Treadwell's. She started her career as a solicitor. I think she was in conveyancing, possibly in New Zealand, and she just took a complete career change and taught herself how to cook. She came over to the UK, got a stage with a chef, and eventually caught the eye of Marcus Waring.
Not a bad eye to catch.
Not a bad eye to catch. Old blue eyes.
Oh, okay.
He has got very nice blue eyes.
Okay, just a bit professionally, but okay.
Okay, there you go. Anyway, she caught the attention of Marcus Waring, and he made her into his head of operations for his restaurant group. And she did an incredibly good job of being head of operations of his restaurant group. So that was the Gilbert Scott, Marcus at the Barclay,
yes, of course.
And that was it at the time. And then he, you know, learnt that she is also an incredibly good cook. So they opened up Treadwell's. I'm not sure what year Treadwell's opened. Probably about maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And Treadwell's has now become like an amazing restaurant in Seven Dials, where Chantal is Chantal is chef patron of Treadwell's, and Treadwell's is one of those great restaurants to go if you have a very mixed group of people that you are dining with. So if you have someone who is gluten, has got gluten intolerance, you have someone who's a vegetarian, you have someone who's a pescatarian, you have someone that doesn't eat refined sugar, you have someone that doesn't, is just generally, flexitarian maybe. Chantal's restaurant, Treadwell's, caters for all of those people, and which is pretty incredible, because often you find that you might find that a restaurant is great on vegan but not necessarily good on anything else. Right, yeah. So she's great on vegan. She's great
usually
on celiac.
Usually just the opposite, but yes.
Yeah, she's great on vegan. She's great on celiac. She's great on everything. And she published a gourmet plant-based book, which has become a for want of a vegan bestseller. But she's not a vegan herself, but she's very, very concerned and interested in the whole plant-based move that I suppose we're seeing at the moment, where people are becoming flexitarian, which means they just kind of want to spend some time where they don't eat meat. Yeah. Doesn't mean to say they're necessarily a vegetarian. Well, they're not a vegetarian, because there's other days where they're clearly eating meat.
Yes.
Vegetarian moments, yeah. Vegetarian moments.
Okay. Cool. Got another example?
Of what some other women that are doing great things in the food industry. There's loads of examples. I mean, I love, I suppose, the things that I love the things that Anna Hansen's up to as well at the moment. So Anna Hansen is again another chef that I've worked with for quite some time. She's the chef owner of the Modern Pantry in Clerkenwell, and she's great at things like fusion. She was taught under Peter Gordon from the Providores, and used to work with him, and she's coming up with some really amazing mixtures of taking foods from different cultures and mixing them together. Okay. And I quite like this whole mixing of cultures. There's obviously an argument for saying that food should be pure, and it should stick to one culture. Yeah, exactly.
Japanese,
but the UK is like a melting pot of
London.
The UK is a melting pot of different foods, and we should celebrate people's differences and think of how we can bring those differences potentially together and look at fusion from that perspective. I love fusion food, and it's something that I feel quite strongly and passionately about. And the other people that I suppose that I wanted to mention that we're going to be doing some really interesting things with, hopefully, is Toast Ale, and that I think some people may or may not have come across it. It's an amazing beer. It's a purely all of the profits from the beer go to charity, and how they make the beer is from bread that would have normally been thrown away. Yeah. So it's bread that's surplus to requirements. They take all the surplus bread and make some really nice beer out of it. It's a really tasty beer.
So what are you going to be doing with them?
We're going to be doing a great event. It's going to be like, basically, I think one of my favourite events, because it's going to be combining food and wine and beer, and even whiskey. Whiskey. We've got some amazing women who are like at the forefront of all of those areas, who are going to be telling us about how they got into those areas. I mean, beer is, one could argue, is and wine to that extent. The case of making beer and wine as maybe seem more of a sort of like something in the male domain, particularly wine. It's quite a bit of a and slight old boys network. And there's these women now who are bursting into these areas and are making really good wines and are making good beers. So we're going to be doing an event with them, with beer expert Melissa Cole, with wine expert Helena Nicklin, with the operations director from Toast Ale, and also with Mel Brown, who is the founder of the New Zealand cellar. And we've also just got on board Bettina Campolucci, who's going to be doing some food matching with those wines, and we're going to be doing an amazing event around talking to all of those women, finding out how they managed to get great beers and come up with amazing beers and wines, and also find out how you match beers and wines and whiskey to food. So the whole event will be around that.
And how can people find out more about that event and the other things you're going to be doing around women in the food industry?
Well, it's that really. The website is called womeninthefoodindustry.com.
Okay.
So please visit that.
Yes.
There will be a whole list of events that we're going to be running up to and including International Women's Day, which is on the
early March.
It's on the 8th of March.
Okay.
International Women's Day is on the 8th of March.
Week,
so it would be that week.
That's on a Friday, isn't it?
It is a Friday, yes.
Okay.
So we'll be starting on the 2nd of March and running right through to Friday the 8th of March with these whole amazing events.
And also I'm kicking off, I guess, a sister series with this interview I'm doing here now with you, and I'm going to be talking to some more people that you're participating with in these Women in the Food Industry events, and I'm looking forward to those interviews. Thank you, Mex.
That's all right. Thank you, Chris.